What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to Season 18. Welcome to the Season 18, the year the Premier Division got its TV deal. It's happened. I thought it might happen, actually. Last episode, I talked about it a little bit. I wasn't obviously planning on recording any part of video during the off-season. I don't normally do it, but when I saw this item come in, I felt like there's a chance it might vanish before the Champions League games, and I feel like we just have to sit here and just bask in it. The Premier Division TV deal sees every team get £74 million. Well, that is every team in Gibraltar now going pro. That is absolutely insane news. We've gone from a league that was the lowest rep league in Europe. We're now in actually 30th. So I think I said last episode that I thought if we got into the top 30, that might be it. That is what we did. As you can see, we are now bigger than League One. But with all this money coming in, I expect to see us rocket up the leagues now. I can believe it because I knew it was going to happen, but to get to this point is a really massive achievement for me. It's one of those big landmarks, when I started this series and I had landmarks to hit, win the Segunda Division, win the Premier Division, get to a Champions League group stage. I guess just to win a Champions League qualifying game was a goal initially. This was one of the biggest lines of them all because I knew that if we got to this point, we're in a very good situation going forward, and hopefully the save will start to pick up now. We should see a much more competitive Gibraltarian league. £74 million. That's a lot of money, especially for all the teams in Gibraltar who, let's face it, we don't have a lot of money between us all. I mean, if we look at my history here, I've only spent £144 million on players in the last 18 years. £74 million. Yeah, in 2 years, I am going to have made back every bit of money that I spent on players. That's ludicrous. That's mad. But that's the situation we find ourselves in now. I don't know what this is going to mean in terms of overall changes. I do wonder if I can maybe get an increased wage and transfer budget now on the back of that new news. Unfortunately, actually, I can't request it at the moment, which is a little bit of a shame. I feel like these board expectations and board budgets might update during the season now that they know all this new money is coming in, but of course we don't actually see that £74 million until it kind of comes in throughout the year. But wow, it's happened. We've hit the landmark. Guys, let's roll into season whatever, or episode whatever number this is. This is season 18 with Gibraltar Apex. You will see me next time, I think, for the group stage. And yeah, let's get straight into the episode. Okay guys, so we are back here for Season 18, and you've already seen the mini intro to this episode. At the end of the year, at the start of this season, we found out about a brand new TV deal that was going to be impacting us. As you can see today, we will be going into the UEFA Champions League. Just a quick look at the finances so you guys can kind of see how it's working out. We're making a lot of money. If we look at the TV revenue kind of area here, you can see Premier Division. Last month we got £7 million. So far this year we're up to £18 million. It seems like we're being paid £7 million a year. Of course, the total amount we receive is £74 million. I'm not sure exactly how that works because it's kind of weird we're getting paid TV money before the season's even began. But I mean, I'm not going to complain. We have some money in the bank. And perhaps you'd be expecting me to have gone absolutely mad and signed a load of players. But that really isn't what's happened this summer. And in fact, it's been a little bit underwhelming in terms of the transfers. The budgets didn't get changed too drastically despite the TV deal. Of course, we don't really have the money in the bank yet for the board to tell me to go crazy. That said, I have made a few deals which I think are going to work out in our favour. Anyway, if we look at the outs, no one major, except from one major one, really. I say no one major. There was a big major one, and actually, it happened on deadline day. Ernesto Vergara going to PSG from us for £32.5 million. And whilst he's a great player, and at 22, I have no doubt he's probably worth more than that, I feel like to get £32.5 million for him is a really good bit of business. Now, the additional bonus with this transfer is the fact that if we look at the clauses for Vergara, I did manage to get their 50% sell-on clause. So we are now going to be hoping that PSG sell him on. The actual agreement itself, as you can see here, we're getting paid £1.66 million for the next 12 months, or 11 months. I think it total to around £20 million up front with £13.5 million in kind of future fees paid over the next year. It's a pretty good deal, I think, for us. We're going to benefit long-term from it. I'm not actually sure how the kind of fans responded. I'm kind of curious to see what they think of it. They seem to think that we did pretty well. They think that we made a lot of money off him, more than perhaps we should have. Not sure if I agree with that, but all in all, they seem pretty happy. In terms of on the ins, you may have noticed only one. This is the quietest transfer window, I think, in the history of this save. The player I brought in here, John McMaster, now an Australian, a friend of Paul Smith, an actual player who was, well, suggested to me by Paul, our captain, as a player I should look into signing. And at 26 years old, you can see why. He's a very good centre-back, and if we compare him to Frigier, who I see him as the kind of successor to, you can see he's a better player than Frigier. Perhaps Frigier slightly better in the air, slightly better defensively, but I feel like, you know, McMaster here, he's a very athletic centre-back. And alongside Mustafa, I feel like he is going to kind of really, I guess, work well with Mustafa. If we just have a look. Where is Mustafa? Where are you? There you are, Ramadan. You can see these two guys. If we just compare them by the graphs, that's probably the easiest way to do it. You can see Mustafa as a defender, better defensively, a lot better in the air. But McMaster's a very fast centre-back, and he's also very good on the ball, really, which I kind of like in a player. He's 26, so he's got his best years still ahead of him, but a great centre-back, some really nice physicals which really, really stand out, particularly that acceleration. I feel like him and Ramadan Mustafa are made to play with each other. And yeah, his technical is perhaps not the craziest, but at 26, perhaps a little bit of room to improve. But I think he's going to be a good centre-back for us, and for £15 million, I was pretty happy about that. You may have noticed when I clicked on Transfer Centre, we have this deal going on. Now, unfortunately, this deal isn't taking place until January. It was one that I didn't get done in time for a variety of reasons. The first one being that Gaiganov, the player himself, wasn't transfer listed at the time. He was a player I was looking at, and, well, Bayern wanted 50 million, and I was not going to pay that. He started kicking up a bit of a fuss, which I was kind of happy about. Ultimately, I've decided to splash the cash on this guy. He's going to be joining us for £26.5 million. The actual total of his transfer comes nearer to 30 million because of agent fees. But with Vergara's departure and this guy being transfer listed for a reasonable fee, in my opinion, I had to go for him. He's 24 years old, Ukrainian. He's only just turned 24. If we look at his scout report, he's a star player. He could have potential to improve into a world-class fullback. He's requested to leave. He enjoys big matches. He's consistent. You're probably wondering, Jack, how much are you paying him wages-wise to come from Bayern Munich? I'm paying him £80,000 a week, which might seem a little bit crazy to some people, but to put that in perspective, of course, with the £74 million a year in TV revenue and our wage budget previously sitting at £500,000, realistically, we can afford to spend it in the region of kind of about £1.5 million a week on wages. Gaiganov is going to contribute massively to the wage increase, but I feel like we are going to have pretty much our defence set in stone for the next year with Gaiganov coming in. We've, of course, got Kabasele, who will be playing left-back when he comes in. We then have McMaster at centre-back alongside Ramadan Mustafa. We then are going to have, of course, Gaiganov at right-back, the Ukrainian, who I think is going to be an absolutely insane player for us, if I'm honest. And then in goal, of course, we'll stick with Ludwig Jung at 28 years old. I think he's earned his spot in the team, at least for now. And I feel like when Gaiganov comes in, defensively, we're going to be set. I feel like that is the defence which we won't need to really touch for a few years. There might be a little bit of a knock-on effect with all those new players coming in over the last few years. Players like Graphite and Graf Wright. You know, they might want to leave Graf Wright, particularly this guy. He was kicking up a fuss in the summer about wanting to leave. But I decided to keep hold of him. And, of course, we have Frigier as well. So times are changing, but I think we're going to be left with a world-class defence. And I think that's one thing that is going to help us hugely, especially with it kind of getting to the stage now where with this save, really, we need to be aiming to try and win the Champions League, particularly kind of with our newfound money at our disposal. Of course, Vergara's departure at centre attacking mid does leave a little bit of a hole in our side just because, well, we didn't have time to get in a replacement. I've talked about it before, but one of the disadvantages of playing in Gibraltar is our transfer window closes about a week before the end of the month that everyone else's transfer window ends on. So, for example, Vergara's transfer deal actually ended up happening, as I mentioned, on deadline day on the 31st of August. You can see that our transfer deadline day was the 26th of August. We had a few late loan deals that went out. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying. You will notice on the outs a few players going to other Gibraltarian sides. A really good sign to see. Of course, all these teams, they're now going to be getting some money. And whilst they are going to have £70 million each, their reputations aren't going to be great. And a lot of them are still semi-pro. As you guys know, the AI in FM, it's never really the best when it comes to transfers. But I'm hoping over the next few years, as the rep of the league continues to increase, as these teams start to rack up a massive bank balance, we're going to see them start to invest really smartly and hopefully build kind of a Gibraltarian Super League here. That's got to be, I think, the long-term aim with this save now. You know, gone are the days where we are going to be the dominant force, I feel like. You know, £74 million for every single team is just such a ridiculous amount. I mean, we've spent, I think, barely double that in 17 years to get where we are. If the AI spends the money smartly, It's going to be a very competitive division, and I'm very excited to see what can come of it in the next kind of decade or so. And it'll be interesting to see any knock-on effect the Gibraltarian kind of national team has, because if we take a look at the Gibraltar national team, you'll see Yves Frégère, the Frenchman, or former Frenchman, I should say, he's taken up Gibraltarian nationality, and there's a few others. If we look at the national team now, you've got Romero, our former goalkeeper, he's gone to Athens. You've got Danny Evans, Frégère, Gary Horst, Jay Marriott, Jason Hall, Ethan Brunt, Annabelle Perez, Jeremy Braun, Tuzon, Bay. It's kind of cool to see, but slowly but surely, the national team is picking up players that ourselves and Gibraltar Lions have had and really making the most out of them. I mean, you look at the centre-back partnership of Frégère and Horst. That's like a centre-back partnership that's probably good enough to go to a World Cup. And, well, if the Gibraltarian national team can continue to improve, can continue to kind of take on the rejects of other nations, it could be really interesting to see what the national team can do. Of course, I have talked about wanting the national job at some point. Thomas Gallardo, still in charge at the moment. He's not been sacked. He's been there some time. But you can see, actually, Gibraltarian football as a whole, it's never really been better. They currently sit 113th in the world rankings. And if we look at the fixtures, you can see they beat Liechtenstein 5-0, which, you know, that might not seem like a massive result, but it's a good result for them. And they also lost very narrowly to Armenia. So, you know, signs of improvement. I do feel like they're perhaps still underperforming slightly. It's definitely a job that I'd love to get my hands on soon. You know, I kind of feel like we're getting to that point now, particularly with, you know, the other Gibraltarian teams starting to get money now. As soon as they start signing, you know, some cheaper Spaniards from abroad, perhaps bringing in some players from England and other nations that have quite competitive national teams. And, you know, a lot of these players kind of embed themselves in Gibraltarian football. In 5 years or so, there's going to be a really kind of thriving and competitive national team that I'm hoping can do some work, maybe even reach a World Cup. Anyway, that's kind of what's been going on in the off-season. Not so much in the way of transfers, but just wanted to elaborate a bit more on the money and the effect that's having. We have actually signed a few other players. I scoured these guys ages ago. They were a few Americans that I signed. Of course, we've not signed many Americans in a very long time on this save. It was something that when we first went pro, we were kind of forced into doing. I found these two guys, which were suggested by my scout in North America. The first one here, Mark Caranci, an American, 17 years old, good physically, he's a promising winger. Kind of scout reports seem fairly positive about him. He's got a good professional attitude, tons of potential. I'm hoping he can live up to that. And he's going to be joining us on his 18th birthday, so I think he's actually joining, yeah, you can see here, this January, so that's something to look forward to. The other transfer, we have another American. We have Gareth Prideaux. It's probably Prideaux. It sounds French, doesn't it? I think that's how we'll go with saying his name. He's 17 years old. He can also play sweeper slightly. I like that in a player. But he looks very good in the air, this centre-back. He's a good young centre-back. Valued, as you can see, at nothing because, of course, he's at an academy. And he is joining us, actually, sooner than the last player. He joins us at the end of December. So that's something, again, I guess, to look forward to. Anyway, in terms of the squad, in terms of the team, you can see we do have a few injuries to start the year, which is a bit of a shame. I talked about last year a need to get a few more kind of backup players out in the wide areas. In my infinite wisdom, of course, as you guys know, it's not surprising really. I wasn't able and I didn't do that. I probably should have done upon reflection, but I do see this year as a bit of a transitional year. As long as we can get to the first knockout round of the Champions League, I'll be pretty happy with this season. I think this year is about getting through this year, trying to just keep the coefficient high, and then look to, with all the new TV money and hopefully a little bit of new financial pulling power, really get our hands on some good players. I feel like the financial pulling power is starting to build up, and I think that's kind of evidence enough with signings like Gaiganov and also McMaster, of course, joined us from Dortmund and Bayern Munich, two very large kind of European sides. Either way, for today's game, we of course are taking on Red Bull Salzburg in the Champions League. Just a quick look at our Champions League group. It consists of ourselves, Red Bull, Salzburg, Valencia, and Sporting. Sporting, we've met them so many times in this save, it's getting a little bit silly at this point. They actually won the Champions League 2 years ago, and it's worth noting that Manchester City won the competition last year, of course. They knocked us out in the Champions League, which was a little bit disappointing, but I've talked about it before. To lose to the eventual winners is not a bad achievement. Either way, our pre-season was pretty packed with fixtures, of course. We didn't have to qualify this year for the Champions League. However, if you've been watching the last few episodes, you'll know our coefficient dropped. So actually for next year, we're going to be out of the group stage at the start. We will have to qualify again, which is a little bit of a pain. But I'm hoping with all the new money, of course, that Gibraltarian clubs can start to perform themselves in Europe and kind of up the coefficient without me kind of having to backpack and carry everyone over the line. It is worth noting Gibraltar Lions made it through to the Europa League group stage again, so that's a really good achievement for them. They've got Midtjylland, Manchester United and Stuttgart in their group, so group of death. Rest in Peperinos, probably not going to get out of that one. I guess they can do their best, can't they? They've got a good team now, Gibraltar Lions. If we just look at their finances, because I think they've made perhaps the best signings and the most notable signings. They've signed some good players. They've got Ivan Jimenez here, who looks like a great little Spanish striker, if I'm honest. Like, a very good player. Bit of a bargain as well at just over £1 million. And a few other players they signed just real quickly. Carlos Rico looks like a good centre-back for them. Spanish, again, the kind of player who, if he stays in Gibraltar for 5 years, I mean, he'd be a very nice addition to the national team. And we'll look at one more real quick. And the one that we'll look at, I think, will be this guy, Raul of Celta Vigo, or formerly of Celta Vigo, Brazilian. So a little bit of pulling power, getting in players from abroad. He looks like a pretty scary striker. Good pace, good physically. We did actually play Gibraltar Lions, as you guys can see here, in the Pepe Reyes Cup, and we beat them 2-0. I do feel like the games against them this year could be quite competitive, so we might even do a live com, say, in January time against them in the Primera Division. I think it's been something like 12 years since the last Primera Division live com, so perhaps it's a little bit overdue. Either way, our team for today's game does have those injury worries that I mentioned before. As a result, we have got to change the team slightly, but we kind of knew that was going to be a situation going on anyway, so it's not new news to us. Instead, we've just kind of got to adapt to it and see how we get on. I think it's worth mentioning one player who I've not really talked about much in this save since we signed him, which is Rida Mecheche of Algeria. I feel like I said I was going to call him the Mech. I'm still going to keep calling him that. But the 19-year-old Algerian, a player who actually joined us a few years ago now for £1 million. He's developed quite nicely over the last few years in the reserves, and this year he is kind of going to be a third/fourth choice striker for us. And I'm hoping that, you know, on the times when we do call upon him, he can do a good job for us. Either way, our starting 11 for today's game, and actually what I consider to be our best starting 11 with the exception of Smith's absence, is the team you see in front of you. In goal, we go with Ludwig Jung. Left back, we of course go with Graphite, who, as I mentioned, probably going to lose his first team spot when Gaiganov comes into the side. But nevertheless, while he's here, I expect to see him give some top-notch performances at left back. Anyway, in the new kind of centre of defence kind of partnership, we go with Ramadan Mustafa, the towering Egyptian. Just such a fantastic player for us. And alongside him, his new mate, McMaster, 26 years old, the Australian, bags of international experience, a very athletic centre-back. I'm curious to see how these two guys get along with each other. Right back, we go with Cabasele, a player who, you know, he's more naturally a left-back, which is a little bit odd for a right-footed full-back, but he will be, of course, moving to left-back come January. But the 22-year-old former record transfer now, he had a good start to his season at the club. Of course, he was cup-tied, so he couldn't play in the Champions League. This is going to be his first time in a live con for you guys to kind of see him in action on the big European stage, so hopefully he can put in a good performance for us. In midfield, we go with JJ and Bouchard. Nothing really changing in the midfield with the exception of Vergara's departure this year. It's a familiar kind of outlook when you look at our team. At centre attacking mid with Vergara out, Mora comes in. He is going to be the player we look to be that kind of killer attacking midfielder for us. I think it's a role he is going to be able to do quite well for us, if I'm honest. And I kind of look at him and I think he's capable of finishing. He's capable of getting some goals that we might need. And to be honest, I just like the look of him. He's been at the club, of course, a number of years now, the Colombian. He must be getting close to being eligible for Gibraltar, so part of me is hoping that he might decide that he wants to play for Gibraltar's national team. It'd be a mighty fine addition to the squad if he did decide to kind of commit to them. Anyway, out on the right, we go with Daniel Forster, the German player, 24 years old, had a great season. I actually think some of the best transfer business that we did this summer was simply not selling players and not caving in. So in that regard, I'm pretty happy. Either way, on the left wing, we go with Fialos, the Ecuadorian. When we called upon him previously, he did well. He's now broken into the Ecuadorian national team, which is kind of nice. If I'm secretly being honest, I would have rather he played for Gibraltar, but we can't choose that, unfortunately, for him. You can see last year he got 9 goals and 10 assists in the league. And last year in the Champions League, we called upon him a few times. He played 4 games and actually got 2 goals and an assist. So he likes this competition. Then up front, perhaps the biggest player of them all to keep hold of this summer was Mosca, the 21-year-old Brazilian, still injury-free, still improving. Absolutely love this guy. Such a great finisher. And at 21, got his best years ahead of him. And despite his injury proneness, He's been such a good player for us. The fans love him. He's a consistent performer. Hopefully he can do a good job of leading the line this year. On the bench we go with Graf Wright, Frigere, Jose. Jose, of course, being the striker from Brazil who we signed last year as a bit of a backup. Never been given really much of a run out in the first team, but might get a chance today. We then have Gilvan, the talented Brazilian kind of deep line playmaker we can play if we want to. Lavas, of course, kind of the centre-back, full-back. He plays everywhere, doesn't he? He needs to learn to play in goal, really, the 23-year-old. But a good player for us to have. We also have Helic. I'm actually going to take off the mech and bring in, I think, Walter Palermo, just because we don't really need 2 or 3 strikers on the bench. So we'll go with Jose and Helic. And, of course, Helic's staying at the club. 30 years old now. This is his last year of his contract. Whether or not I want to extend his contract, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's room to maybe bring in a few new talented younger strikers. Perhaps similar in mould, I guess, in a lot of ways to Mosca and try and kind of develop them, give them some game time every now and then. But, well, Mosca has kind of nailed down that number 9 shirt as his own. Either way, that's the team going into today's game. Our squad is definitely smaller than perhaps I'd like it to be, but at the same time, I feel like it's quite a well-balanced squad. It's a squad that all know each other well. And it's a squad that's proven itself. You know, I don't feel like we need to, with this new money coming in, kind of completely change the squad overnight. You know, I feel like doing this kind of gradual transition is going to be a very healthy phase. And I think there's a lot of players who are already in the squad who will probably continue to hold down their positions. I look at the likes of Bouchard, Paul Smith, Mosca, you know, players who have been at the club a few years now. They're really not players that I need to desperately try and replace with the new money that we have. And instead, you know, I'm going to try and build up kind of the team slowly as I have, you know, build up it with the defence, start from the back, you know, adding Cabasele, McMaster, Gaiganov. It's going to end up being, hopefully, a really good world-class team, this, on a relatively good budget. Anyway, we're on the attack here. Mosca dispossessed. Of course, we really need to concentrate here. I talked about our Champions League group. We were the number 3rd seeds, but we were the 3rd seeds going into this group. But Salzburg here, who we're playing against, they are the kind of number 4 seeds. You know, we should be beating them. And, well, with Valencia and Sporting in our group, it's not going to be an easy group by any means. And there's an air of expectation that we need to get a result here if we can really to get off to, well, the ideal start here. Anyway, Farlos coming down the left-hand side, the Ecuadorian. Big ball in. Mosca is there. Doesn't look like the assistant's flag is going to be raised. That's a beautiful ball by Farlos, the number 14. The Omri-esque player there, floating inside, and he switches the ball absolutely superbly. Mosca just timed his run to perfection and, well, buries it in at the back post. Of course, Red Bull Salzburg, if I'm not mistaken, a team we played very, very early on in this save. I feel like we played them, I don't even know. I think it was one of the first Champions League games. Maybe it was, you know, 2nd or 3rd season, maybe 4th season. And we played them, and I feel like they slaughtered us, and maybe we got a weird 3-2 win away at this stadium. So this stadium holds good memories for us. Of course, those memories now, you know, 15, 16 years old. And, well, we want to create new memories, and creating new nightmares is not what we want to do, as they do score. You'd have to say that they've got a little bit lucky there. It's their first shot of the game. It's Hitcon in off the woodwork, I think, although the game hasn't counted it as a woodwork hit. But it's just a big header, and the keeper should probably do a little bit better to get being at the near post, but at the same time, well, Salzburg, they find themselves back in this game. That said, as I said, we've been on top in this game, but we do need to kind of stay switched on. We need to stay at our best. And McMaster can't afford to make a mistake like that. Fortunately, blocked away. Now can we build from the back? Mustafa out to Forrester. Or Forster. If I've been calling him Forrester all this time, it's Forster. If I've been calling him Forrester, I want to apologise to everyone for this save, because that basically I should start the save again because of that. Either way, it's Forster, Graphite, Bouchard, through to Filos. Can he play it inside? He can. Mora can't quite get the ball, although Bouchard there. Mora has the effort, saved by Bruns. Of course, Mora slotting into that centre attacking mid-roll that Vergara is kind of leaving behind, having gone to PSG. Of course, we have got other players we could play there. Gilvan can play there, the talented kind of Brazilian playmaker. Other players we've got who could potentially play there include, of course, Bouchard himself. But I think for now, at least, we're going to give Mora the nod and give him a chance to really prove himself here. Looking at the stats so far in this game, half-time it's going to be 1-1. We've been on top in this game. I'm going to just tell the players as it is. I'm not particularly happy with what we've seen in terms of chances created. I want them to be fired up. Mora's had a really bad game, and, well, if he continues down the road he's on for the next kind of 10, 12 minutes, I might take him off. Although, we'll give him a chance to kind of come back in the second half and give a much improved performance. You know, give him a chance to set the record straight, although we do need to defend here. Ortner, Yilmaz, Munter out on the left-hand side for Salzburg. Forster, though, nice pressure. Now up to Mosca. Where is Mora? Number 10. There he is on the ball. We don't want to take him off just yet because he can change a game instantly. Forster beats his man. Can he get the ball in? He can. Fireloss is there. The assister previously turns goal scorer. His first goal of the season. A really nice passing move as well. And, well, that is the ideal second half start in this game. Forster just knocks it through the man's legs, burns him for pace down the right-hand side, and just puts a really intelligent ball across the line. And, well, Fireloss from a tight angle was not going to miss because he was just so close to the goal. It's a beautiful effort. And now can we make the most of the corner? It's whipped in, cleared away. Bonus for us, Cabaselli, who lays it off to Bouchard, who hits it. I mean, perhaps a half chance for us there. I thought the keeper was really going to bizarrely kind of carry it into his own goal just for a second. A weird opportunity. Cabaselli did well to get the ball straight back to Bouchard. And while the attack isn't over, Mosca to Fireloss whips in the ball. And, well, Forster is going to score. And, well, Fireloss and Forster, they're running the show down either wing. Fireloss with his second assist of the game. Forster with his first goal of the game, having been provider earlier. And what a performance this has been by the two wide men in this game. It's not been too bad having Mora underperform because, well, we've looked very good in the wide areas and we score again. Forster is absolutely loving it. I am still going to take, I think, off Carlos Andres Mora. He's on a 6.9. I think the change I'm actually going to make is we're going to bring in Gilvan to play centre attack in mid. Give the Brazilian, who's quite a young player, just some time on the pitch. He got quite a lot of game time last year, really, Gilvan. He did join us for £8.5 million, so I have got a little bit in kind of the way of expectations on his shoulders that he's going to develop for us and that he will become a first-team regular. But we'll see what he can do here. He whips in the ball. It's cleared away. And, well, we don't want to get caught out now. At 3-1 up, we're looking comfortable. If he gets to 3-2 with not long left, I might be a little bit worried. That said, we're on the attack here. Gilvan spreads the play well to Forster. Can he get the ball in? He can, and it's Fireloss again. Take a bow, my son. He has ran the show. Second goal of the season for him. I mean, he's been involved in every single goal today, and, well, who is Paul Smith? Why? We don't need no Paul Smith. We have the Ecuadorian Fireloss there. The ball in deep. And he hits it on his weaker foot. It's a powerful effort. Not particularly accurate in terms of getting it away from the goalkeeper. But the power carries it into the net. And, well, at 4-1, I think it's game over. It probably is. Let's make some changes here. I'm going to bring in Walter Palermo in for Graphite. I think at the final third, I'm going to just keep things as they are, to be fair. I don't feel like there's much need to change something that ain't broke. And, well, with 7 minutes left, 5 minutes left, I can enjoy the end of this game. It's going to be a fantastic away win to start our Champions League campaign for the year. And, of course, we're going to be looking, as I mentioned, really just to get out of the group again and help the coefficient continue to rise. And, well, after a performance like that, apparently we have shut a lot of people up. Apparently no one gave us a chance. The players have set the record straight. Valencia winning as well. That could work in our favour depending on how our next set of results go. In terms of next episode and what will be coming your way, it will of course be kind of a live double header. The games themselves are going to be against Sporting and against Valencia, both at home. So hopefully we can do something at the Space Park in those games. Of course, hopefully I'll see you guys for those matches. If you have enjoyed this video, as always, feel free to smash the like button. It does greatly help me out. If you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And other than that, guys, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.